Ever been laughed at by the person you love? Then you already know, it doesn't sound like noise. It sounds like a verdict. If you're new to this channel, just subscribe now, and say it in the comment section. The first time Tunde laughed at Chiamaka's business idea, they were sitting on the balcony of his rented apartment in Surulere. The evening breeze carried the smell of roasted corn from the roadside. Lagos was alive below them, honking cars, shouting hawkers, distant music, but Chiamaka's world shrank to the sound of his chuckle. "I'm serious," she said, adjusting her glasses. "Natural body care products. Affordable but premium. I've been researching ingredients." Tunde leaned back in his chair, a bottle of malt in his hand. "Chiamaka, please." Business is not motivational speaking. It's money. Capital. Connection. Not vibes. "It's Chiamaka," she corrected gently. He waved dismissively. "You know what I mean. Just focus on something realistic. Maybe apply for that bank job again." She forced a smile. "I don't want to work in a bank. And I don't want you stressing yourself over dreams that won't pay NEPA bills." He laughed again, louder this time. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was worse, it was casual. That night, she lay beside him staring at the ceiling fan as it rotated lazily. His breathing grew heavy as he drifted into sleep, peaceful and unconcerned. Chiamaka's eyes remained open. She replayed every word. Not because they hurt, but because they clarified something. The next weekend, they attended his cousin's engagement party in Festac. The compound was crowded with aunties in lace and uncles discussing politics near the drinks table. Chiamaka wore a simple blue dress, her hair neatly braided. She looked calm. She always looked calm. "So, Chiamaka," one of the aunties asked, adjusting her jewel, "what are you doing now?" Before she could answer, Tunde responded. "She's our future dangote," he announced dramatically. "Madam CEO. Soon she will be exporting cream to America." Laughter erupted around them. Chiamaka smiled politely. "I'm working on a small project." "Small?" Tunde said. "It's microscopic." More laughter. Someone clapped him on the back. "Control your woman before she uses your rent money to start mixing shea butter in the kitchen." Even Chiamaka laughed then. Softly. Controlled. But something inside her shifted. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just firmly. Later that evening in the car, she stared out the window as streetlights blurred past. "You didn't have to make it a joke," she said quietly. Tunde kept his eyes on the road. "Babe, relax. It was just cruise." "It didn't feel like cruise. You're too sensitive. If you want to survive business, you need thick skin." She nodded slowly. Thick skin. She would remember that. Weeks passed. The jokes continued. When she watched YouTube tutorials about formulation, he would glance at her phone and smirk. Professor of Creamology. When she wrote notes in her small brown notebook, he'd peek over her shoulder. "Are you calculating billions already?" One evening, his friends came over to watch a football match. The sitting room smelled of peppered chicken and beer. Chiamaka served them quietly, placing plates on the center table. "Tunde said you're starting one big company," one of his friends said, grinning. "Don't forget us when you blow." She smiled. "I won't." Tunde laughed. "Blow coup?" "Let her even produce one bottle first." The men burst into laughter. She returned to the kitchen before they could see the way her jaw tightened. Inside the small kitchen, she leaned against the counter and inhaled slowly. This is the last time, she told herself. Not the last time he would laugh. The last time she would explain. That night, after his friends left and the house grew quiet, Tunde wrapped an arm around her in bed. "You know I'm joking, right?" he murmured. She looked at him. His face was relaxed, affectionate, unaware. "Yes," she replied softly. But something in her voice had changed. He didn't notice. The following Monday, she woke up earlier than usual. The clock read 4:32 a.m. Lagos was still dark, wrapped in pre-dawn silence. She sat at the edge of the bed and looked at Tunde sleeping. He looked harmless. Almost boyish. She stood up carefully, picked up her notebook, and walked to the living room. Under the faint yellow light, she opened to a fresh page and wrote 3 words, "Move," in silence. She stared at the words for a long time. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But out of clarity. The laughter had stripped away her need for applause. It had burned off her desire for early validation. She realized something powerful: when people laugh at your vision, they reveal the limits of their imagination, not yours. The next time Tunde teased her, she didn't defend herself. When he said, "So how far with your billion-dollar empire?" she simply replied, "It's going." When he joked, "CEO, hope you've paid your imaginary staff salary," she smiled and said, "Soon." Her calmness confused him. He expected debate, explanation, emotion. Instead, he got composure. One evening, as rain tapped against the windows, he watched her measuring something into a small bowl in the kitchen. "What are you doing now?" he asked. "Just testing something." He leaned against the fridge. "You and this you're testing. Don't burn my pot, please." "I won't." He shook his head, amused. "You're stubborn." She looked up at him. "No," she said gently. "I'm focused." He chuckled and walked away. Focused. The word lingered in the air long after he left the room. Days turned into weeks. The laughter didn't stop. But it stopped mattering. At another family gathering, when someone asked about her plans, she answered calmly, "I'm building something." Tunde opened his mouth to add a joke. She placed a light hand on his arm. He paused. There was something different in her eyes. Not defiance. Not anger. Just certainty. For the first time, he didn't laugh. That night, lying in bed, she whispered into the darkness, not to him but to herself, "I will never announce my next move." The ceiling fan rotated steadily above them. Outside, a generator hummed in the distance. Beside her, Tunde slept peacefully, unaware that the laughter he thought was harmless had planted something irreversible. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't rebellion. It was resolve. And resolve, once planted, does not need noise to grow. Chiamaka woke up at 4:30 a.m., her body resisted. The bed was warm. Tunde's arm was draped lazily across her waist. Outside, Lagos was still wrapped in darkness, the only sounds distant generators and the occasional barking dog. For a moment, she almost convinced herself to sleep another hour. Then she remembered the laughter. Not with pain. With precision. She gently lifted his arm and slipped out of bed. In the bathroom mirror, her reflection looked ordinary: sleepy eyes, scarf loosely tied, oversized t-shirt. Nothing about her suggested revolution. And that was exactly how she wanted it. By 4:45 a.m. she was seated at the small dining table with her notebook, laptop open, hotspot on. She had created a simple spreadsheet the night before: ingredients, suppliers, prices, delivery timelines. She clicked through pages of local vendors, sending polite but direct messages. "Good morning. Please, what is your bulk price for raw shea butter above 10 kilograms? Do you offer samples before full purchase? Can I get wholesale packaging with custom labels?" Her tone was calm. Professional. She never mentioned that she was working from a one-bedroom apartment. She never hinted that she was building quietly while her boyfriend believed she was scrolling. At 6:15 a.m., she closed the laptop and returned to bed just as Tunde stirred. "Where did you go?" he mumbled. "Bathroom," she replied smoothly. He pulled her close again. "Sleep small more." She smiled into the pillow. If only he knew. Later that afternoon, while Tunde was at work, she transformed the kitchen into her laboratory. The small gas cooker became her heating station. Stainless steel bowls replaced fancy equipment. She measured carefully, following ratios she had studied for weeks. Coconut oil. Shea butter. Essential oils. Vitamin E. She stirred slowly, watching textures change. The mixture thickened beautifully, glossy and smooth. She dipped a finger inside and tested it on her wrist. Soft. Absorbing quickly. No greasy residue. Her heart raced, not because it was perfect yet, but because it was real. She wasn't fantasizing anymore. She was formulating. The first batch failed. It separated overnight. She didn't panic. She adjusted. The second batch was too thick. She recalculated. The third batch? Promising. She labeled it Sample 3A. When Tunde returned that evening, the kitchen looked normal. Pots arranged. Counters clean. The only evidence was a faint sweet scent in the air. "Why does the house smell like spa?" he asked, dropping his bag. She shrugged lightly. "Trying a new air freshener idea." He nodded absent-mindedly. "As long as it doesn't finish my gas." She hid a smile. Days became structured. For 30 a.m., supplier negotiations. Lunch break, ingredient research. Afternoons, formulation testing. Evenings, girlfriend mode. She saved aggressively. The money her aunt sent occasionally. Freelance editing jobs she picked up quietly online. Even transport fare when she could trek instead of take a keek. Every naira had direction. One Saturday, she visited Balagan Market alone. The market buzzed with chaotic energy, traders shouting, carts pushing through narrow paths, fabrics fluttering in humid air. She navigated confidently, notebook in hand. "I need 50 pieces of these containers," she told a packaging seller. "50 only? That one is small quantity. For now." He eyed her skeptically. "Business new." She met his gaze steadily. "Business growing." He smiled slightly. "Okay. I give you small discount." She paid in cash and carried the bag herself through the crowded streets, sweat sliding down her back. She didn't mind. Growth wasn't glamorous. Back home, she lined the containers neatly on the table. Clear jars. Gold lids. Simple but elegant. She placed one in front of her and whispered, "You will sit in stores one day." Not dramatically. Just matter of fact. Meanwhile, Tunde's teasing evolved. One evening as they ate dinner, he said casually, "My colleague's girlfriend just got promoted. Real career moves." "That's nice," Chiamaka replied. "What about you? Any update from your imaginary factory?" She chewed slowly. Swallowed. "It's progressing." He laughed lightly. "You're serious about this thing?" "Yes." He shook his head. "I just don't want you to waste your time." She looked at him carefully. Time spent building yourself is never wasted. But she didn't say it. Instead, she asked, "Do you think I can't do it?" He paused. "It's not that you can't," he said finally. "It's just, the world is hard. I'm being realistic." Realistic. Another word she stored away. That night, after he slept, she opened a blank document and typed, "Brand name, Glow Essentials." She stared at it. C, from Chiamaka. Glow, what she wanted women to feel. Essentials, simple, necessary, powerful. She smiled softly. It felt right. Over the next weeks, she tested her products on herself first. Then on her cousin Amora. Be honest, Chiamaka insisted as Amora rubbed the cream into her hands. Amora's eyebrows lifted. "This is actually very nice. How much? I'm not selling yet. You should. I'd buy. That small sentence meant more than applause from a stadium. She began giving out 5 sample jars discreetly to trusted friends, instructing them not to mention her name yet. Feedback returned quickly. It cleared my dry patches. My skin feels softer. Do you have bigger size? Demand. Quiet but undeniable. One afternoon, as she packed sample jars into a small carton, Tunde walked in unexpectedly early. She froze for half a second. What's all this? He asked, staring at the table. She didn't flinch. Samples. He picked one up, reading the temporary label. Sea Glow. He smirked. You've named it already. Yes. He twisted the jar open and sniffed. Smells good, Shaw. It is good. He looked at her, surprised by the firmness in her tone. You're really doing this? I am. He placed the jar back down. Okay, oh. Just don't come and say I didn't warn you. She nodded. Inside, something stronger than confidence was forming. Independence. Not from him physically, but from his approval. The early mornings became easier. The negotiations sharper. She learned how to reduce costs without compromising quality. She found a small local printer willing to produce custom labels on credit after she convinced him with clear numbers. You talk like someone serious, the printer told her. I am serious, she replied calmly. By the end of the 6th month, she had a refined formula. Branded packaging. A small but loyal customer base. And a growing savings account labeled Launch Fund. Meanwhile, Tunde remained unaware of the scale. To him, she was still experimenting. Still trying. One night, as they sat watching TV, he glanced at her phone buzzing repeatedly. You're popular today, he joked. Just small things. She muted the phone. Orders were coming in. Not huge, but consistent. What he thought was hobby was structure. What he thought was distraction was foundation. She didn't correct him. Silence had become her strategy. And in that silence, something powerful was taking shape, layer by layer, jar by jar, morning by morning. She wasn't chasing noise. She was building proof. 7th month, Sea Glow Essentials had outgrown the kitchen. It didn't happen dramatically. There was no sudden explosion of wealth or viral moment. It happened quietly, the way real growth does. Orders that used to come twice a week were now arriving daily. Referrals multiplied. A friend told a colleague. A colleague told her sister. Strangers began sending messages asking, "Are you the owner of Sea Glow?" Chiamaka never rushed her replies. Yes, how can I help you? Professional. Measured. Direct. One afternoon, she stood inside a small one-room space she had just rented in Yaba. The walls were plain cream. The tiles slightly cracked. The window small but functional. It wasn't glamorous. But it was hers. She ran her fingers across the empty table in the center of the room and exhaled slowly. No more hiding, she whispered. She hired 2 part-time assistants, Ngozi and Fatima. Young women eager to learn. She trained them personally. Consistency is everything, Chiamaka told them. If the texture changes, we redo it. No shortcuts. Ngozi nodded. Yes, Ma. Fatima smiled. Our brand must shine. Our brand. The words warmed her chest. Meanwhile, at home, Tunde still believed she was doing small online sales. One evening as they ate jollof rice in the living room, he said casually, "My friend is hosting a product launch next month. That's real business. Big hall, sponsors, media." Chiamaka's spoon paused mid-air. Is that so? Yes. That's how it's done. Not kitchen experiments. She swallowed. Not kitchen experiments. She almost laughed, but not from pain. From irony. Because that night, after he slept, she opened her laptop and finalized a venue booking confirmation. 6 months of disciplined savings had led to this. A modest but elegant event center in Chiamaka. Capacity, 120 guests. She transferred the deposit and stared at the confirmation email. It felt official. The following week, she designed simple ivory invitation cards embossed with gold lettering. Official launch event, Sea Glow Essentials. She held one in her hand and traced the letters gently. For months, she had moved in silence. Now it was time to speak. But not loudly. Just clearly. She left one invitation on the dining table 3 days before the event. She didn't mention it. She didn't announce it. She simply placed it there and continued her morning routine. When Tunde returned from work that evening, he dropped his keys into the bowl and noticed the envelope. "What's this?" "Open it." He tore it open carelessly. His eye scanned the card. Then he laughed. The same familiar laugh. Official launch, he read aloud dramatically. Sea Glow Essentials. She leaned against the kitchen doorway calmly. "Yes." "You're serious?" "Yes." He shook his head, amused. "Chiamaka, you didn't tell me you were planning comedy show." "It's not comedy." He looked at her face carefully. She wasn't smiling. The laughter faded slightly. "You mean this is real?" "It's real." He looked back at the card. Date. Time. Venue. Dress code. "Where did you get money for hall?" he asked. "I saved." "From where?" "From working." He stared at her. For the first time, confusion replaced amusement. "How big is this thing?" he asked slowly. "You'll see." He leaned back in his chair, studying her as if noticing her fully for the first time. "You've been serious all this time?" "Yes." Silence stretched between them. Then he chuckled again, but softer. "Okay, I will come and support." "Thank you." But inside, she knew something important. He still didn't understand. He thought he was attending a small gathering. Maybe 20 people. Some plastic chairs. Light refreshments. He had no idea. The days leading up to the launch were intense. Bulk orders had already been placed by 3 beauty stores pending official unveiling. A small distributor had expressed interest but wanted to see the vision live. Chiamaka rehearsed her speech at night in front of the mirror. "Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for believing in Sea Glow." She adjusted her tone. Confident but not arrogant. Grateful but not apologetic. Ngozi and Fatima worked tirelessly packaging products into elegant gift bags. Gold ribbons. Clean labels. Crisp finishing. "This is big," Ngozi whispered one afternoon. Chiamaka nodded. "Yes. But it's only the beginning." The morning of the launch arrived bright and humid. Chiamaka stood before the mirror in a fitted emerald dress. Her makeup was soft but powerful. Her posture different, grounded. Tunde adjusted his watch beside her. "So CEO," he teased lightly, "ready for your big day?" She looked at him through the mirror. "I've been ready." They drove to the venue together. Traffic crawled through Chiamaka. Tunde scrolled on his phone, occasionally glancing at her. "You didn't tell many people, right?" he asked. "I invited who needed to be there." He smirked. "Hope I won't be the only guest." She smiled faintly. When they turned into the event center's driveway, Tunde's smile faltered. Cars lined the entrance. Decorators adjusted flower stands. A branded backdrop stood boldly at the gate, "Welcome to the official launch of Sea Glow Essentials." He straightened in his seat. "Wait." She opened her door calmly. Inside the hall, rows of white chairs were neatly arranged. A projector screen displayed product visuals. Soft instrumental music floated through speakers. On one side, a product display table showcased neatly arranged jars in different sizes. Customers were already seated. Some taking photos. Some examining samples. Ngozi rushed toward Chiamaka. "Ma, the distributor from Abuja has arrived." "Good," she replied. Tunde remained near the entrance, scanning the room. "This is yours?" he asked quietly. "Yes." He walked slowly past the display table, picking up a jar. Professional labels. Batch numbers. Contact details. "This is not small," he murmured. "No," she said gently. "It's not." More guests entered. A small banner on the stage shimmered under the lights. "See Glow Essentials, Skin Confidence Redefined." Tunde turned to her. "How long?" 6 months. 6 months. His voice cracked slightly. "All this in 6 months?" "Yes." He shook his head in disbelief. "You were serious." "I told you." He looked around again, the decorations, the guests, the subtle elegance. For the first time, he wasn't laughing. He was calculating. The MC tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're about to begin." Chiamaka inhaled slowly. This was it. Not revenge. Not validation. Just revelation. She stepped toward the stage as the lights focused softly in her direction. Behind her, Tunde remained standing, still processing. The same woman he had teased. The same kitchen he had mocked. The same dream he had laughed at. It had never been imaginary. It had been preparing. Microphone felt steady in Chiamaka's hand. Not heavy. Not intimidating. Just present. She looked out at the audience, rows of attentive faces, soft lighting reflecting off polished tiles, the faint hum of the air conditioner steady above the quiet anticipation. For a brief second, she remembered the balcony in Surulere. The laughter. The dismissal. Then she let the memory dissolve. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice calm but clear. "Thank you for being here today. Thank you for believing in something that started very small, but never small in vision." A few people nodded. Some smiled. Tunde stood near the back of the hall, arms folded, watching carefully. She continued, "See Glow Essentials was born from a simple idea, that confidence can begin with how you feel in your own skin. I didn't have a big factory. I didn't have investors. What I had was consistency and faith in the process." The word consistency lingered. Tunde shifted slightly. She went on to thank her early customers by name. She mentioned Ngozi and Fatima, who both looked emotional in the front row. "And to the people who doubted me," she added gently, "thank you. Because you taught me how to move in silence." The audience responded with soft laughter and applause. Tunde felt the claps land differently this time. Not accusatory. Not dramatic. Just real. After the speech, the MC invited guests to interact with the product display while refreshments were served. Conversations filled the room, genuine curiosity, interest, networking. A tall woman in a tailored suit approached the stage and shook Chiamaka's hand. "Impressive presentation," she said. "I'm Aisha Bello. I represent a distribution chain in Abuja and Port Harcourt." Chiamaka smiled warmly. "Thank you for coming. We've tested your samples," Aisha continued. "Customer feedback was strong. If you can maintain supply consistency, we're interested in placing a regional order." The words landed like thunder wrapped in silk. "What volume are you considering?" Chiamaka asked calmly. "Initial rollout across 15 stores. With scaling potential." Nearby, Tunde froze. 15 stores? Scaling potential? He stepped closer, pretending to examine a product jar while listening. Aisha extended a folder. Here's a draft partnership outline. We can finalize numbers after compliance checks. Chiamaka accepted it with steady hands. That sounds good. No squealing. No wide eyes. Just professionalism. As Aisha walked away, Tunde approached slowly. What did she just say? He asked. She wants distribution partnership, Chiamaka replied simply. How many stores? 15 to start. To start. His eyebrows rose. Kai, this is big. She looked at him directly. Yes. For a moment, he had nothing to say. The MC returned to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special announcement from one of our partners. A representative from a local beauty retail chain stepped forward. After reviewing Siglo Essentials and witnessing the founder's dedication, he announced, "We are proud to confirm an official retail partnership effective next month." The hall erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Ngozi gasped. Fatima clapped excitedly. Tunde felt the applause vibrate through his chest. Not as background noise. As realization. This wasn't a hobby. It wasn't a kitchen experiment. It was infrastructure. Customers began placing on-the-spot orders. POS machines beeped steadily. Assistants moved efficiently, recording purchases and collecting contacts. Tunde watched his girlfriend, no, not just his girlfriend, navigate the room with composure. She shook hands confidently. Answered questions with clarity. Negotiated pricing calmly. At one point, she turned and caught him staring. She walked over. You're quiet, she observed. He exhaled slowly. I didn't know. I know. He looked around again. You built all this without telling me the full picture. I told you enough. His jaw tightened slightly. Why didn't you show me? She paused. Because every time I showed you, you laughed. But she didn't say it harshly. I wanted results before explanations, she replied. The sentence struck deeper than accusation. Results before explanations. He nodded slowly. A group of guests approached them. Is this your husband? One woman asked cheerfully. Tunde opened his mouth. Chiamaka responded smoothly, he's my partner. The word hung in the air. Partner. Not provider. Not leader. Equal. The guests congratulated them both before moving on. Tunde swallowed. For years, he had been comfortable leading conversations, being the ambitious one, the planner. Now he stood beside a woman whose ambition had outpaced his awareness. The event continued successfully for hours. By the end, most of the launch stock had sold out. Contact sheets were filled. Partnership discussions scheduled. As workers began dismantling decorations, Tunde helped carry a carton toward the car. I underestimated you, he said quietly. She adjusted the box in her arms. You did. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment. She looked at him gently. Sometimes protection looks like limitation. He had no defense for that. Outside, as evening light faded over Ikeja, he leaned against the car. I feel, he searched for the word. Embarrassed. She didn't smile. I'm not trying to embarrass you. I know. That's the worst part. You didn't need to. He ran a hand through his hair. All those jokes. They helped me. He looked at her, surprised. They did. Yes. They removed my need to convince anyone. Silence stretched between them. For the first time since they met, Tunde wasn't the confident voice in the room. He was the one recalculating. Back in the car, driving home, he kept glancing at her. The same face. The same woman. But somehow elevated. Not because of money. Because of proof. At a red light, he finally spoke again. I'm proud of you. She studied his tone carefully. It wasn't performative. It wasn't loud. It was humbled. "Thank you," she replied. The light turned green. As they drove through the Lagos night, city lights reflecting against the windshield, something fundamental had shifted. Not her ambition. Not her discipline. His perception. And sometimes, perception is the last wall that needs to fall. Felt different that night. Not physically. The same cream walls. The same brown sofa. The same small dining table where jokes had once lived comfortably. But the silence carried weight. Chiamaka placed her handbag on the table and removed her heels slowly. Her feet ached, but it was the satisfying ache of accomplishment. From the bedroom doorway, she could see Tunde sitting at the edge of the bed, elbows resting on his knees, staring at the floor. No television. No phone scrolling. Just thought. She walked in quietly and began removing her earrings. "You were quiet in the car," she said gently. He exhaled slowly. "I'm still processing." She nodded. "It was a long day." "That's not what I mean." She turned to face him. He looked up, and for the first time since she had known him, there was no pride in his eyes. No teasing confidence. Just raw honesty. "I didn't think you would actually pull it off," he said. The words were blunt. She didn't flinch. "I know." He swallowed. "I thought it would fade. Like most ideas." It wasn't most ideas. He rubbed his palms together nervously. "Why didn't you tell me it had grown that big?" She sat on the chair opposite him. "I tried telling you at the beginning." He lowered his head. Every balcony conversation. Every family joke. Every football night laugh. They replayed loudly in his memory now. "I was joking," he muttered weakly. "Yes. But I didn't mean to discourage you." "You did." There was no anger in her voice. Just clarity. The honesty hit harder than shouting would have. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "When that distributor mentioned 15 stores, I felt small." She tilted her head slightly. "Small?" "Yes." He let out a breath that sounded like defeat. "Like I was the one dreaming small." She studied him quietly. This was the reaction nobody expected. Not anger. Not jealousy. Reflection. "I never wanted to compete with you," she said. "I know. I just wanted to build." He nodded slowly. "And you built." Silence settled between them again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. It was transitional. After a few minutes, he spoke again. "When that woman asked if I was your husband," he paused. "Yes? You said I'm your partner." She held his gaze. "You are." He looked conflicted. "Have I been?" The question lingered. She could have answered quickly. Could have softened it. But tonight required truth. "Not fully," she said. He didn't argue. He simply nodded. "I was comfortable being the one with direction," he admitted. "I didn't realize I was laughing at yours because it scared me." "Scared you?" He gave a small, embarrassed smile. "If you succeeded, what does that make me?" She blinked. "It makes you someone who succeeded beside me." He absorbed that slowly. "I think," he said after a moment, "I confused leadership with superiority." The admission surprised even him. Chiamaka stood and walked toward the wardrobe, carefully hanging her dress. "You weren't superior," she said calmly. "You were louder." He let out a short laugh, this time not mocking, not dismissive. Just honest. "That's true." He stood up and walked closer to her. "When you said you wanted results before explanations, that hit me." She turned slightly. "I was tired of explaining potential. I didn't know how much I was dismissing." "You didn't try to know." The words were firm but not cruel. He nodded again. I owe you an apology. She looked at him, waiting. I'm sorry for laughing at your ideas. I'm sorry for turning your ambition into entertainment. The apology was simple. Unadorned. Real. She searched his face. There was no sarcasm hiding. No pride defending. Just humility. Thank you, she said softly. He hesitated, then asked quietly, do you still need me? The vulnerability in the question surprised her. Yes, she replied. He looked relieved. But not for permission, she added gently. For partnership? He nodded firmly. I can do that. They sat on the bed side by side. No dramatic music. No emotional breakdown. Just two adults recalibrating. After a while, he spoke again. What's next for Seaglow? She smiled faintly. Scaling production. Formal registration upgrades. Expanding distribution beyond Lagos. He listened attentively. No jokes. No interruptions. Just attention. I have some contacts at work, he offered carefully. Maybe I can connect you to a logistics consultant. She looked at him. This wasn't dominance. It wasn't takeover. It was contribution. That would help, she said. He nodded. I want to support properly this time. She believed him. Because the tone had changed. Weeks passed. The launch photos circulated quietly among attendees. Orders increased steadily. The Abuja distribution deal was finalized. Ngozi and Fatima transitioned into full-time staff. And something else changed. At another family gathering, when an aunt asked, so what are you doing now, Chiamaka? Tunde answered before she could. She's the founder of Seaglow Essentials. We just secured multi-store distribution. No laughter. No exaggeration. Just pride. The aunt blinked. Ah. That's serious. Tunde smiled. Very serious. Later, in the car, she glanced at him. You didn't add any jokes. I retired from comedy, he replied. She laughed softly. One evening, as they reviewed a draft proposal together at the dining table, the same table where invitation cards once lay quietly, he paused and looked at her. You know what's funny? What? I thought I was being realistic. But I was just being limited. She closed her laptop gently. Realism without vision is just fear in disguise. He nodded slowly. I'm learning. And he was. He no longer asked if the business was serious. He asked about margins. He didn't mock early mornings. He woke up sometimes and said, you need coffee. He introduced her differently. Not as someone trying, but as someone building. One night, as they prepared for bed, he said quietly, I'm glad you didn't stop because of me. She looked at him thoughtfully. I wasn't building to prove you wrong. I know. I was building to prove myself right. He smiled. And you did. As the lights went off and the room settled into darkness, the silence felt different from the one months ago. Back then, it held suppressed ambition. Now, it held established confidence. Chiamaka had built more than a business. She had built proof. Proof that laughter cannot cancel vision. Proof that silence can be strategy. Proof that confidence does not need noise. Beside her, Tunde slept, not unaware this time, but aware. Aware that greatness had been beside him all along. And this time, he wasn't laughing. He was learning.